Good morning everybody. In this video I'm going to be processing your raw images. Thanks ever so much for sending them all in, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to get to them all, but I think I'd rather show you in depth what I actually do to some pictures. So I appreciate it, and if you sent them in and I'm not showing them, I'm very sorry. I'll hopefully do another one in the future and I'll keep them until then. Right, this first image is sent in from Paul H from Cornwall. Thanks for sending it in, Paul. It's of Glencoe in the Scottish Highlands. First thing to notice is in the top right hand corner of the image, I need to get rid of that little bit of vignetting or whatever it is. Something's up in the corner there, get rid of that. Right, now then, I will choose Adobe Landscape as the profile because that just gives it a little bit of boost of colour and suits landscape images very well. Now I'm going to choose to mask the sky with AI. There we are. Now I'm going to reduce the exposure. The way I like to do these kind of edits is to go too far and then bring it back. So that's obviously false and, you know, way too dark. So I like to go from 0 down and then bring it back to an acceptable level, something like that. Add the contrast, add a bit more contrast to the sky, just to give it a bit more drama and mood. I'm also going to bring the temperature down using the color temperature, which is basically the white balance. Again, too far and it's too blue, way too blue. So it's just a subtle adjustment for the sky, just to bring out that bit of blue in the sky a little bit more. Right, that's looking good. The two main focal points of this image are obviously the river and the mountain on the left. So now I've done that, press enter twice. I'm going to use K on the keyboard. In Lightroom, that gives you the brush. I'm just going to roughly brush over this mountain at the top. And I'm going to increase the exposure there just so it just stands out a little bit more. Something like that. A bit more contrast. That's looking good. Press enter twice. M on the keyboard gives you the graduated filter. So I'm going to work on the stream or river now by bringing exposure of it up. Yeah, that looks good. Too far. Yeah, that's too far. Back to about plus 70, looks good. Bit more contrast there. And it's looking a little bit warm, so I'm going to decrease the temperature slightly, just to make it slightly cooler. See, that's too far, now we've got too much blue in the stream. So something like that. Now I'm liking this, it's looking good. I can see some dust spots in the sky. So let's press enter twice, work on the sky area now. So I'm going to zoom in, and this is because if I press the info, yes, it was shot at f22. As soon as you shoot anything at tiny little apertures like f22, it really shows up the dust on the sensor. So your sensor does need cleaning, Paul H. In fact, it's got quite a lot of dust all over it. And that might be a lot. No, I don't think that's dust. Anyway, I'll get rid of most of them here. Pretty easy to do in Lightroom, just select them and it will decide where to clone from. Now press enter twice to get out of that. Now you can see at the top of the mountain here, if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see this green line which is called chromatic aberration or fringing. And if you go down here to lens corrections, it's dead easy to fix. Just click on remove chromatic aberration. And I think that's pretty much a finished image, so pretty good. I might add a bit of vibrance to it. Let's boost the vibrance just a little bit. Too much? Yeah, that's way too much. It looks unnatural now. So down to about plus 28 on the vibrance scale. Now I'm going to open that image in Photoshop and compare it to your JPEG. Right, so this is your JPEG now, Paul. I don't think you made quite so much of the mountain as me. There's my edit. And you didn't make the sky, you didn't do much to the sky, which I would have made the sky more moody. There's my version. Let's go, hang on, back a bit. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I do prefer mine. The stream looks a bit warm as well in yours. I think I prefer it slightly cooler so that the nice warmth of that light on the mountain really stands out. Now, when I looked closely at your JPEG, I think you could improve it slightly if you got rid of that chromatic aberration, because you can see you've still got the green fringing at the top. I mean, it'll only show up in a large print, so if you're just, you know, sending them on the web, it doesn't really matter, does it? But I also noticed that if you darken this area up here quite significantly, mind you, bring up the contrast, you can see there where you've done an edit with two large blobs. So you've done a clone or something, and those two large blobs, admittedly, you know, you're never going to have a picture this dark, but if you were to send this off to a printers and it came out darker than you expected, those little bits might show up on a larger print. So worth correcting those kind of things. Just trying to help and get you to improve your processing. I hope it does help. Thanks for sending it in, and on to the next one. This next image was sent in by Hans de Jong, or Jong. Sorry if I've mispronounced it. You're from the Netherlands. Thanks for sending it in, Hans. And it's of a beach in Northern Ireland, which I wish I'd been to because it looks pretty darn good. Now, this is Hans's final JPEG, which all looks pretty good. Nice wave crash, but the peninsula, or the land on the right-hand side, looks very light, and I don't think it would have looked like that in real life with that amount of cloud. So my edit might be a little bit different than yours, Hans, but this is what this is all about, isn't it? So first thing I'm going to do is change the profile to Adobe Landscape. Now I'm going to bring the exposure right down. Not too much though. Something like that. And now that's made this, the rock in the middle is too dark now, so I'm going to lift the shadows. Yeah, that's looking better. And now I'm going to select the sky separately again using AI. Now, if you haven't got Lightroom or Photoshop, don't worry. And there's a new player now called Affinity. They've been around for a while, but they've just decided to start doing things slightly differently. So Affinity Photo now do a free version of their software, which is supposed to be really good. I haven't tested it, but if you haven't got software yet, that might be a good one to get. And then if you get on with Affinity, you can always upgrade to their paid version, which has a lot more AI features and things like that. So I think it's a good model rather than Photoshop and Adobe with their, whatever it is, 15 to 20 pounds a month. Ugh. I'm not keen. I might even switch to Affinity Photo myself, especially if the free version's good enough. Anyway, back to your image. So I've selected the sky. Now if I zoom in, let's see if it's selected that bit of land as well. It might have done. I think it has. So I'm going to click on the mask, and I'm going to subtract using the brush. There's the brush. Yes, it had selected the land thinking it was part of the sky. So artificial intelligence, maybe broader than mine, but it's not as clever as mine for doing this. Or something like that. So all I'm doing now is erasing the mask from the land so that I can adjust the sky separately. So I think that'll make for a better final image. Right. Now if I go back to there, and so choose what I'm going to do with the sky. I'm going to bring the exposure right down. Too far, way too far. Something like that. I'm going to increase the contrast of the sky. That's looking a bit too moody now. So also going to bring the temperature down slightly so it's slightly bluer. Yeah, that's looking nice. I think that will do. Press enter twice. and go back to zoom. Right, now what it's done, you can see there where I've done it badly. So when I've erased those bits off the land, I've left a white patch now above the land, which is not desirable at all. So I'm going to have to go back into that mask, and I'm going to have to add to it now with the brush. So now if I zoom in even more, I can do this nitty-gritty down here, and that's not working, is it? So what I'll have to do is I'll have to use a larger brush and just go nearer the edge, just to help get rid of some of that extra white. That's looking better. That's much better. Go a bit larger on the brush, which is the which is the brackets key on the keyboard. And I really do like the rainbow. Nice bit of rainbow there. Press enter twice to get out of that. Right, that's looking good. I think the sky's looking a little bit darker than yours, Hans. What else would I do? I still think the rock's a little bit dominant, so I might try another mask, which is going to be select the subject, and it should choose that black rock. It has. AI, I take it all back. You are cleverer than you seem. Right, so I'm just going to bring the exposure up just a little bit of that black rock, just to take away from the sheer mass of it, just to give it a little bit more detail. I think that's good. I'm also going to darken the sky just near the top with a graduated filter. So that's M on the keyboard. Just bring it down to about there and just darken that top part of the image just slightly. See, if you go too far, it looks silly. Just come back. Plus 28. That looks good. Press enter twice. I think I'd spend more time, if I wasn't doing this video, I'd spend more time getting it better around that bit of land, because that's the key part. But you get the general idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with the rest of it at all. Just going to quickly check the histogram, see if the whites need lifting up. Yeah, the whites do need lifting up a little bit. So you can see the histogram move. If see it move over to the right there when I adjust the whites. So I'm obviously going to do a subtle adjustment just to make sure I don't go over the top. So back plus 25. And now the blacks, the black point, bring that down just a little bit, just to extend that histogram. I think I'm done there. I'm going to open that up in Photoshop and then compare it to your JPEG, Hans. So there's my edit. So the land's looking darker, but I can see where I've got still see where I've got a little bit of white above the land, which I can fix that, but it's probably beyond the scope of this video, otherwise the video is just going to get too long. Whoops, where is it? There. So Hans, that's your original picture. And there's mine. Yeah, mine's looking moodier. I'm a moody guy. Yours doesn't suffer from the line above the land so much. Yeah, I'm not sure what you think, Hans, but Yeah, I prefer my more dramatic sky, I think. Not knocking your image. It's a lovely image, and I'd like to visit that place one day. Thanks for sending it in, Hans. I'd just like to say that normally I would spend longer over these edits. I'd really relax into it, but it won't make for a very good video if I'm spending ages going and ah, like that kind of thing. So I am kind of going through these edits a little bit faster than I would do my own images, because when I'm out in the field, I really like to totally relax into my images, which is why I love a tripod, because I can set it down, get it all set up and really tune into my surroundings. And I love to do that in the studio as well. So I'll normally take longer over these and ponder over it. And sometimes what I do is I'll do a certain amount of work on an image, and then I'll leave it overnight, come back to it the next day and have another look at it, because with a fresh head, you can sometimes see things differently. So it's not something to be rushed. Like photography in the field, if you ask me, landscapes anyway, it's not something to be rushed. It's something to be taken with deliberation and concentration and almost meditation. So yeah, so I'm going through these a bit fast. Now then, this next image is of the Lake District in England, and it's sent in from Hudson Swan. So thanks for sending it in, Hudson. And my first thing to do is to put it into Adobe Landscape. It's very dark. I might just do an auto on this one. So if you go to settings and then auto settings, Control U, there you can see how it's immediately lifted everything up. And if you look at the histogram, what the auto does is it makes for a good histogram. So over here on the right, you can see what it's done. It's brought the exposure up by plus 1.31, and it's lifted the shadows, but it's made sure that the whites aren't burned out. So my initial thoughts was with this, I think it's Ashness Bridge, isn't it, in the Lake District, so it's not far from Keswick. My initial thoughts were, when I first saw it, was to crop in. What have you done with your JPEG? You haven't cropped in. So this tree here on the right is a birch which has lost its leaves. So I'd be tempted to, let's have a look, see if I can crop into that. In fact, I might lift the shadows a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's better, because the shadows are quite deep. So I'm liking that. And let's have a look at, if I press R on the keyboard, you can crop in at the original ratio. So I might see what will happen if I crop off that birch tree on the right hand side. Yeah, I'm not so keen on what it does to the composition, because it makes the bridge a little bit too central now. But what I do like about it, if I just press enter, is now those distant mountains have come more further forward in the frame, and my attention is drawn to them more, because yeah, I think I do prefer that. So let's just go back and forward so you can actually see for yourself what you thought, what you think. So that's the image before the crop, and there's plenty of water, but you probably don't need all that water. And there's the image with the crop. Yeah, sorry Hudson, but I just think I prefer that. So now what I would like to do is I would like to lift up some of these beautiful autumn colours. So how am I going to do this? Let's just get a brush. So it's K on the keyboard, and I'm just going to brush over this area roughly with a large brush, and I'm going to lift the exposure just so that those trees, that's over the top, you see, you can see that's over the top. I'm just going to lift those a little bit with the exposure, and now I'm going to lift up the shadows of that area as well, just to see what that looks like. No, that doesn't look good. It's going too flat now. Boost the contrast a little bit, which makes it a little bit darker, but now I can bring the exposure up again. Yeah, that's just giving a little bit more of emphasis to those trees, which I do like. Yeah, I think that's better. What else would I do? I think the facing side of the bridge is a little bit dark. So let's press enter twice and start a new brush for that. Using the brackets key on the keyboard, you can bring down the size of the brush. So I'm just going to work on this side of the bridge and just lift it just a little bit, just so that it just stands out a little bit more. Yeah, just a little bit. Don't want to bring up and look unnatural. So I've gone to +49 on the exposure for the bridge. Let's just see if anything else is going to work, like lifting the shadows. I think isn't going to work. No, that doesn't work. Bring up the whites might, so it'll bring up the whites of those bricks a little bit more. Don't really want to make it, no. No, that's wrong. Taking the blacks down and now lifting the exposure a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good. If I go back to where I was, so that's the dark bridge, and then that's what I've done. I've just lifted it a subtle amount, otherwise it's too much in shadow for me, as it is the kind of main focal point of the image. Right, so anything else I would do? I love the distant hills, but I don't think there's a lot I can do with those. They're supposed to be of a flatter tone because they're further away, so I don't really want to boost anything with those. I don't think there's a lot more I'd do. What I would probably look at is doing a vignette on this image. So you go down to Effects, and then you can bring a vignette in just to boost the viewer's eye's attention towards the centre of the frame. So if I go over the top, you can see what it does. See, that's completely over the top, obviously. So that's back to 0. So I'm just going to bring it a subtle amount, just to darken the edges and bring up the middle. Yeah, I'm liking that. Right, let's open this in Photoshop and compare it to your original image, Hudson. So there's mine. I think I prefer yours. Yours is warmer. You brought the bridge up as well. The bridge does. Yeah, yours has got more of a warmth to it. Yeah, I think if I go back now, yours is better, Hudson. That's funny. I wasn't expecting this. Right, back to Lightroom. Not working for some reason. Right, back to Lightroom. Now if I can make this image warmer quite easily by just adjusting the white balance. So there it is, warmed up. Too warm, but that's about right for me. Does the whole image need a little bit more brightness? I think it might do. Yeah, I think I'm liking that better. Let's go back to and compare that to your JPEG, Hudson, by opening that in Photoshop. So there's my version. Yeah, I've lightened the trees up, but I think I might have, it's hard to tell, isn't it? I need to spend more time with it, but I think I've made my trees lighter than yours, which I think I prefer. In fact, now, yeah, I'm at the stage now where I prefer mine. I don't think there's a lot more I could do with that, but yeah, thanks for sending it in, Hudson. So please let me know in the comments what you think.